L. Nelson, 2575 Park View Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37914. Interview conducted by Dr. Charles Johnson, University of Tennessee Department of History. Interview conducted on September 21st, 1988, at Mr. Nelson's home. My voice is plenty loud. I don't have any trouble being heard.
Your wife told me that you were, professor with UT.
Yeah, I've been over there for 23 years now. I came in 1965. Mm-hmm. And I came down here from Michigan. It was the first job I had out of graduate school. Mm-hmm. I've been teaching American history and American military history ever since. And I teach a course on American World War II, which is one of the reasons I'm interested in that. Usually, one of the first questions I ask is how old were you when you went into service, and when it was that you went into service?
Well, I guess I was at 20.
Were you from Knoxville in this area? Or?
Yes, not on town.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go in from there, no. But this is my hometown.
Where you from?
I went in Virginia. Yeah, Virginia. Roanoke.
This was before the United States got into the war?
Yeah.
Yeah, you went in before that.
And this was February 14th, 1941. The basics in Norfolk, took my basic training in Norfolk. And after 6 weeks of basic, was transferred to North Atlantic Squadron.
What was your basic training like? What did they do with you and to you in those 6 weeks?
Your first 2 weeks is more or less indoctrination period. You are more or less isolated from the rest of the personnel. You had certain privileges. You couldn't mingle with anybody else except the people that is in your compound. Say it like that. After that 2 weeks indoctrination period, then you got 2 more weeks. Still in more or less isolation, but you can mingle with more. You still didn't have any, what you might say, PX privileges. You couldn't go to church during that first month. You couldn't mingle within the rest of them. You couldn't go in the swimming pool, anything. You were still under isolation.
How big a group was it that you were in? Just roughly a few hundred, or?
No. Well, it started out, I guess, probably 1,200 men.
Oh.
And ended up with approximately 3,000.
Big group.
Large group. My first duty was that I said before was off Labrador, Nova Scotia. Off that lookout post number 3. Weather extremely cold. I say about 20 below. Way below. So your state of Michigan ain't got nothing on it. No, sir.
What was your job? You said lookout post?
Yeah. that being near, pretty close to the Russian border. And Labrador, Nova Scotia. And, of course, we were with squadron of destroyers. That was my first seagoing duty. Come back with further transfer to the West Coast.
What sort of ship were you on up at Labrador?
Well, it was something like a radar picket. Not radar picket, but
This is a smaller ship than the destroyer.
oh yes, no place near. Classic. Heavy destroyer. Nope. Just a little bit larger than a patrol craft.
I see.
PC.
I see.
But they were all aluminum, not too stable. Didn't like to do it, it was too cold. Press transfer. Left Nova Scotia, went to the West Coast.
By this time, was it the summer of 41?
Yes. We were back in training in San Francisco. What they call the Bay there, Yarrow, Virginia. And from there, we went to sea, where they asked for volunteers. And I didn't want the patrol craft. Of course, I got the PC duty there. I just been patrolling up and down the coast, trying to go in there and get my back. So, I accepted sea duty, or was assigned sea duty. Sea duties led me to Honolulu. Then I wasn't on a destroyer, I was on a AP. And AP is tank personnel. In other words, a troop carrier.
Okay.
And I was assigned to an AP. And still looking for that ever speed. That's what I wanted, speed. So, AP was, let me see now. Name of the AP, USS Marathon. APA 200.
Still got that in mind.
Got that. Got out the APA after about 3 months. Or one cruise on it to Midway. When they came back to Honolulu, requested transfer and got it. Transferred from that to the USS Lardner. That's the destroyer of the 2100 class.
Bodney,
USS Lardner.
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 Yeah.
That's 318. That was a support type of destroyer. Didn't have the speed of an attack destroyer.
Were there opportunities when you were serving on the AP and the destroyer? What were the opportunities available for black sailors at that point in 41?
Well, opportunity wasn't too great. It wasn't too great. And you either came in as a mess attendant to go up to the cook's rates, I'll say, never know rank, but rates. And of course, that's getting ahead of ourselves like that. Later on, when the war really opened up and they needed men on the combat station. And they needed men with sea legs. We already had them. They didn't have to more or less condition for the sea. And those of us that wanted out of the storage branch got out. They wanted to. I was one of the ones fortunate to get out. And then from the Lord, I was assigned to a destroyer. No. I was assigned to an AP. Not AP, but AK. AK. Messing with that cargo ship. Speed just about the same as the APA. Mm-hmm. Max speed about 12 knots, something like that. I forgot to get out and swim faster than that. That was too slow. Then I got this slow. And during this length of time, war broke out. And our destroyer squadron was exercising off of Midway.
So you were off Midway when the attack was in Pearl Harbor.
And they told us to destroy our dummy ammunition and try and intercept the fleet that was coming back that way, the Japanese fleet. Well, it's just like throwing spitballs up against the wall. But we did our best. And it didn't slow them down not 1 hour. They kept going. We had to duck tails and run.
So, but you did contact them. You did.
Did our best. We did our best with them. But unfortunately, we got out. We couldn't catch them. We couldn't outfight them. Not then. We couldn't catch them. So they went their way. We went on out, reporting their position, everything. Out. Returned to Pearl. With our home base and saw the destruction that we did that.
Yeah, what did it look like when you came in? What?
It actually looked like a used car junkyard. That's what it looked like. And most of us were angry. Not because we had missed them, but because we needed prepared for war. In a sense that we weren't actually prepared to do active combat with. And they immediately sent us back to San Diego, 12th Naval District. It's our headquarters for that Pacific Fleet. And regroup, rearm in Oakland for the ammunition depot in Oakland, California. So we went up there, got our ammunition, no dummy this time. It's either fight or die. Regroup, Long Beach, California, which is that halfway between Oakland and San Diego. And did our exercises, our gunnery practice. And from there, we went on down and rejoined the fleet.
What was the name of the ship again that you were on? Do you remember?
No. This was a destroyer. It was a 32,000 ton destroyer. See, our first one was a 2200 large, 318. And this was still, it had a little bit more speed, but still not enough for me.
You like to go fast.
I love to go fast, especially out on the water. And in the meantime, we were making ports of call on this destroyer, trying to look at what he had. And in the meantime, we looked at the submarines too. Then we went into the tactical part of it. Where we saw them, we sank them. If they get to us first, we sank them. Fly ratio was for every one of our lost destroyers. The squadron just got about 5 or 6 of their submarines. So the ratio was about 5 to 1. And
Got most of them with depth charges.
yeah, depth charge. Hedgehog, Cable, Wagon. We had all of them. But 8, 5, 38, and 40. And all of those. Most of us had been at sea quite a while. See, all this happened in a span of about 3 years after, or 2 or 3 years after Pearl Harbor. All this has happened. So, I said, well, you see, I had a couple of re-enlistments and that on the high sea. On one of those destroyers, I had a re-enlistment, so I accepted for another 4 years. And I can picture somewhere. I don't know where it is. I may have lost it. I don't know what's on some of these things. Yeah. Anyway, I see after 5 years, I finally got the type of destroyer that I wanted, which was the Amen.
The Amen?
Yeah. A. Later son. They fenced us in a lot of places where we weren't supposed to be fenced in, and we had to come out fighting. Like behind the Philippines, we come out doing it. Got 2 of their cruisers, a heavy and a light. We were more or less the target of being a flagship. So we exposed ourselves. They almost lowered the boom on us too, but we escaped.
The ship damaged?
Yeah, it was damaged. It was damaged, but we still survived. Transferred from there, not transferred, but went down for repair in Australia. Not Australia, British Samoa. And they bought a ship tender down. A ship tender, been the type of ship that repaired the sword out on the high sea. Bought that down and we had our bow replaced and rejoined the war.
Sounds like you'd already joined it.
Oh yeah, and I'd already, made preparations then to go with the fleet to Tokyo. Well, this is some years later. But making preparations to go with the fleet to Tokyo, the whole entire squadron. 14 destroyers. And all the big stuff the Navy could muster on the West Coast, everything. That's been carried all the way down.
What duty were you doing by this time?
Since I had got out of the mess division, I was in gunnery division. I got transferred to gunnery division. And was assigned a 40 millimeter, which is an anti-aircraft.
Right.
perform my job well. Then they picked us out of all ships that were there to sweep the Japanese water around where he wanted the American forces to go. So we swept 65 miles of water for man. For that, we got a citation, a unit, presidential unit citation.
That must have been scary work.
Well, wasn't no anybody below deck. Nobody. In fact, it was only just 5 or 6 men in key position on board ship. 5 or 6, so it exploded on that, been on one level low. That was just thumping it. In the meantime, we were TAD to, I guess what you call a riverboat. And riverboat being something like an apartment on the water. It's flat bottom. And during that time, typhoon hit, took us, we been one of them that was on the houseboat, took us across a storm wall that ripped the bottom out of this floating hotel. We lost all our fresh water. In other words, we landed up about 6 miles inland, and they decommissioned right then and there. Decommissioned. In the meantime, our ship came back to pick the rest of the crew up from their duty up in the harbor. Came back to pick the rest of the crew up. And the carrier that was to lead the attack on Tokyo moved that day. We took their berth that night, and then we got torpedoed. Instead of the carrier, we got torpedoed. And we were in Okinawa then. So, just, rest of it was just nothing. Hit all ports. In all ports.
For a destroyer to get hit with a torpedo, that makes a real big hole.
Heck, I just got to take up the whole ship. But the way destroyers line up, you see, your squadron commander is always on the outside. They tie 4 abreast. 4. Or sometimes they do the Mediterranean tie. Just have the back end. Let the rest of it go around as the tag goes. But this time, 4 abreast, we've been outside that. But when they got us, they got another cargo ship. And I think 2 or 3 more destroyed. That was further on back on the line.
Were these torpedoes from submarines or from aircraft?
No, submarines.
Submarines.
But they were the more or less homing type. Not homing type, but they were, well, I say, well, let me say it like if they were conventional torpedoes. Not the homing type, because if they missed it, probably they went back to where they came from. I do know that. In the meantime, all this time, you are constantly in class. You are studying. Study. That Wednesday, when you're supposed to have a half a day, what they call a rupee on Sunday, then you learn seamanship. This week. Next week, it could be engineering. You got to know something about damage control, so it's next week down there. And the next week after that, you got to know some parts of celestial navigation. You've got to know all of that. Next week after that, it's office work. And when you get to sit down to take a test, then you're glad you went to those classes. Because there is 150 questions. They actually got 3 hours to complete this test in. Everybody that's going up that next high rate, sits down and take the test at the same time. Wherever they are in the world, they will sit down and take that test. And you will have a little bit of all that in it. Your rate, engineer's rate, navigator, seamanship, damage control, all of that. We got to keep all that up here too. Because you don't have the time to run back to a book. Every time a situation comes up that you can't adjust to right then and there, you don't have time to go to a book. And of course, in at North Tennessee, it's always rough. It's never calm. It's always rough. So you do it morning, noon, and night. Sometimes if you get on battle stage, you'll see how fast you can get to it. And there's no light on nothing. Everything is pitch black. No light. You learn where every chalk in the floor is. Those chalks they are used for night highlighting. Like if you need fuel and the tanker comes alongside at night, you will know how to secure your rope. You know, without a light, you got no light. No smoking. Can't smoke at night. Not outside. Right? There's a lot of restrictions they let you do and get by with. That, well, I guess it's all right, but anytime they load ammunition and fuel, the smoking lamp is out. Nobody smokes. We play from the ship. And I served the rest of my time. And that was a good command. John W. McIntyre is his name. I first come in contact with him when he was a commander with 3 stripes. And I left him. He had 2 stars. And he transferred him to Florida and transferred me to Florida with him. And I said, this is the end of the line. This is where I get out. I didn't actually want to, but then my condition goes. No. So,
This was quite a bit after the war.
oh yeah.
So you stayed in the Navy after the war was over.
Oh yeah. My tour of duty wasn't even up when the war was ended. My tour of duty, I just about a year into it. So I still had 3 more years. Then I was out on the high seas, so I just went on re-enlisted. We were on more or less a pleasure cruise then anyway, so I stuck with it. Well, that's just about the risk. Now you see me now. All right? I came from Florida here with a heart condition. That I tried to go back to school, which I did. And 75, I had to have open heart surgery bypass, which I had. And now I'm just old man. But I'm still glad to be alive. And all this.
So you were in the Navy from 41 to
62.
62, 21 years.
Well, I got my permit. 61, they gave you a temporary time. You don't get all of your benefits at temporary time. You get 3/4 of it. Once they put you on the permanent retirement, then you get it out.
Where you served most of your time in the service on the ocean, on the water, rather than shore duty?
Oh yeah. I only had, I guess, about 8 years. I say about 6 years of actually shore duty time. That's when I was transferred to Florida.
What sort of duty did you have? What did you do?
Went down the floor. I was TAB down there. Where they put me at the one while I was in charge of junior officer quarters. One time senior officer quarters. But then I was in a different outfit. I was in Airwing. Airwing 11. My sea duty was up. Time was up. I was in that rotation group. Now they got it. I think it's 10 years at sea. Then they give you 10 years of land. I'm sure do. But you go beyond that 10, then it's preferred sea duty. Then they put you on land and you go overseas if you want to. And I didn't particularly want to go. Wasn't no place up I wanted to see. But with the admiral, then I had to go.
You were on the admiral's staff. You were admiral's aide, or
no? I was on his staff.
Understood.
Most of the time I drove him around, doing a little flaky work, flunky work, just building up time or something.
Sounds like it wasn't bad, dude.
No, it wasn't strenuous at all. I didn't have anything to do. My biggest problem was keeping out of trouble. That was my biggest problem. I managed that. Okay.
You stayed out of trouble pretty much?
Oh, yeah. Stayed out of trouble. Anyway, I got a whole honorable discharge. I think I got about four of them. Not 5 of them. You get one every 4 years.
You saw a lot of years in the Navy, a lot of changes in the Navy.
Yeah. It went from a humdrum Navy to when I say humdrum, I mean just regular, just Navy. Hey. That's my son. He finished UP. Yeah. Like 3 years ago. 3 years ago.
I don't remember seeing him in class, but there were a lot of students over there.
He was an engineer.
Oh, so I wouldn't see.
And it was just, like I said, a humdrum outfit. Then they started getting sophisticated.
During the war, you mean? Or?
Well, they started, I say doing. They started. Oh. They started experimenting with that electronic all about then. And we had to go to Philadelphia. And they installed an electronic piece of equipment. I can't tell you what it is. And it was on the water, like sonar. But it was on the outside. And before we could get out the harbor, it liked the outside. So we had to bring us back and revise that. And that took a little bit more time. And that's just about it.
I'm sure you saw increasing opportunities for black sailors in the 60s, say, as opposed to what it was in the 40s? Or we're still pretty limited?
Yeah. Well, once I got out, like I said before, I tried to put it all behind.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there were any opportunity, the golden opportunity for me, they had passed me by. Or maybe I had passed them by, one way or the other. But I think the 60s definitely changed. But during the war, the blacks coming in. And I know some now that they are warrant officers even. And also they came up through the ranks. But when I say come up through the ranks, I mean from an apprentice all the way up. I got first cousin lived out here on Sunset. I can't think of his address right now. But he had 38 years in private troop.
I'd like to talk with him sometime.
Well, he's security over at TVA. I don't know what is it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see him now. Last time I saw him was about 2 days before I had the stroke. And that was uptown on the mall.
Mm.
He's been out of town. He got 30 years back too.
My wife said something about were you off the coast of Norway, or did you get that far out?
Yeah, Graf Spring.
She said something about the Graf Spec.
Mm-hmm.
Could you describe that for me? What happened? Or
Well, sure. Coming down from Labrador and Nova Scotia, we got mixed up with that Atlantic fleet, which were a part of it anyway. We were just the northern part of it. And coming back, they told us we got message that the Graf Spray was hemmed up in Norway. Let's see you closer to proceed to people in there. And we did. And of course, the rest of it is history. You know, they sunk it. They finally got the Air Force to cooperate with us on it. Right on down the smoke. That's a pretty active shooting.
it was a tough ship?
I don't believe it. Shell would bounce off that thing like you're throwing rocks at it. Yeah. There's a little fighting in there. That Atlantic Squadron speed boat. Go all the way down through that. Yeah, we don't care. I'm trying to think what type of ship we got on. I transferred when I left. We didn't come back to Norfolk because we pulled into Newport, Rhode Island. And there I picked up the story. Man. But we crossed Cape Hatteras. Came on down with the Gulf from me through the canal.
Mm-hmm.
Canal zone. Squadron was already formed, man. We just rejoined the group. We got the battle group. We got them on the West Coast. That's it.
Well, that's a piece of it. That's a piece of it.
Well, that's the part I grew.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember coming back alive. That's the best part of it.
Yeah, indeed so.
And then the last part of it, I don't have to go back anymore. They be scraping the barrel now to get my 2 zeros behind my name. 0, 0, 0, 0.
Well, you paid 21 years of dues.
I think that's the prime of my life, too. I got 40-something. 45, 46. Still had some good years left in me.
Still do.
I hope I do. I'm trying to make them good anyway.
When you were assigned to the 40 millimeter crew, were you under attack from Japanese planes? So they had to use the 40s?
Yeah. They usually try to coordinate their attacks anyway.
Mm-hmm.
By sea and by air. And of course, we let our depth charges take care undersea. We had 6-4 and 5-38 the surface craft. And of course, 5-30 can also be used for and the foundering down aircraft. So 5-38 and 40 were both used in aircraft.
Did you lose some friends in the war?
I lost my brother. on Missouri.
So,
Growing up. He was in the head of me. I went in to find him. Found him. Didn't know it was him until years later. No, I didn't know he was in Missouri. He got off in Missouri. And an officer that was on the Missouri told me about you. I said, what that officer do? Rights. Cracks. 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 Anyway, I found him. It took me 12 years to do that. But I found him.
find what happened to him.
He been that. So that's all I can tell you.